Hello, 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 and welcome along. Welcome along to our webinar this February. And as everybody is coming in, we're just going to take a few minutes, let everybody run into the room. And I'm so happy to see you all here. Before we officially begin, I just want to engage all of you in a little exercise just to help us get to know each other. And I'll make the formal introductions in a moment. So let's start by just exercising our fingers and using that chat box. You'll see that feature at the bottom of your screen. I will tour you through the other housekeeping pieces to your webinar room. But let's just start filling up the chat box. And yes, welcome along, everyone, and thank you for being here. What are you most looking forward to? Related to fitness, your career, your business, et cetera, for 2022. Let's use that chat box and let's just let everyone know your thoughts. What are you most looking forward to as it relates to the fitness industry, your career, your role in it? Hope to fill up my group fitness classes again. Yes, Ron, I'm with you on that. Of course we are. It's going to be an epic year for everything fitness, including group. Fresh start after taking a lot of time off, new trends, outside group fitness classes. Yes. How do we find new trainers and employees? Oh, the question of the hour. Hope to travel. Oh, I'm with you on that. Moving forward, feeling comfortable, coming back uninterrupted. Let's leave it at that. Share your knowledge, connect with everyone. Oh my gosh, this is great. And of course, that is what we're all feeling. We've got 2 minutes to go until we officially press record or start this webinar. So if you want to be known and heard, fill up the chat box with what you are most excited about as it relates to the fitness industry. Fitness and technology in 2022, we're going to hear a lot about that. I'm going to say moving forward to the new normal. And Mary has already put in our chat box some of the things that you want to do. So I think that is my cue. Let's get underway. So welcome to the State of Fitness in 2022. Today, we're going to take a deep dive into the outlook of the fitness industry through the pandemic and beyond. We're going to explore the opportunities ahead. My name is Mo Hagan. I am the Chief Operating Officer with CamFit Pro, and we, as CamFit Pro and our guest speakers today, are excited to have all of you part of this conversation. This conversation was birthed out of a trends report through a survey that we released later in the year, or just in December of 2021. We had an epic response rate. Well over 1,500 professional members and consumers of fitness responded to our survey. So this is what has brought us here today. We have a few housekeeping details I just want to share with you. This is a webinar. While you are not seen on camera, you can see our presenters. We have a panel of 5 distinguished industry leaders I will be introducing in a moment. Your microphone has been muted. Our panelists are on camera for you, and each speaker will be spotlit, but you can use the view in the right top corner to change your screen up. That'll allow you to see the full gallery of these incredible leaders and their wicked personalities. Also, we have a chat feature. If you're not familiar with it, it is in the lower menu bar. Please click on that and you'll have the chat alongside. Use the chat. We'll invite questions and comments. And of course, there are special features as well where you can share what you feel you're getting out of this webinar through your comments and reactions. Also, there is a feature called closed captioning. This is really a cool benefit of being online where you can see in script what our speakers are saying. If you'd like to turn that off or hide it, please select the CC below, and that will be closed captioning turned on for your benefit if you choose to use it. What's really important about this webinar to know is that after today, following the recording of this, we will capture the outcome of the commentary and the answers to key questions in an upcoming blog post with CamFit Pro. So check that out on camfitpro.com. And also you'll have the opportunity of filling out a quiz to earn 1 CC for this webinar. So lots of benefits for your time spent here today. Our distinguished panelists, we have brought together a wealth of experience and varying perspectives to the topics we're covering this afternoon. They speak to a wide range of business and service delivery models, from big box gyms to boutique studios, in-person, online, and hybrid fitness offerings. These leaders are innovating fitness in response to the pandemic and to support social change for racialized and marginalized groups. Drawing upon the results of our recent CanFit Pro Trends Report, I will be asking each panelist a specific question and give space for responses from other panelists. We're going to touch on everything, so fasten your seatbelts, from popular training modalities to the rise of nutritional coaching, physical activity at all ages, or otherwise known as intergenerational fitness, the demand for quality and smart technology, and expanding diversity in membership programs and content. So that is a wide plethora of conversation. We will leave time for your questions at the end, so please use the chat box feature. The moderators here from CanFit Pro will be supporting me in gathering those questions so we can address them as time will permit. So now it's time to introduce our panelists this afternoon. First, coming in from California is Chris Stevenson. He's a sought-after speaker, wellness and business coach, and the owner of the Empower Group. He is a columnist for Athletic Business and sits on the board of directors of IRSA, the International Racket Sports Association, and the Customer Engagement Academy. Thank you, and great to have you, Chris. I hope you are bringing virtually some sun from California today. All right, next up, we have Fiona Vanderwolf. She is a force to be reckoned with, a Canadian who has not only had a career in the fitness industry for 26 years, but reminded us all this morning that it has been an incredible career that she sought out and created. She thrives in her role of many things, including the owner of Hive Muskoka. She has a 13-year record as a pro trainer with CanFit Pro, and Fiona facilitates certification programs, and she'll speak to a few of those later with CanFit Pro in all 4 areas. She's taught over 40 online courses with CanFit Pro, certification courses during COVID alone, and has certified thousands of instructors during her time. Fiona received the Pro Trainer Jedi Master Award at CanFit Pro's award ceremony in 2021, and she resides in Muskoka, or as we say here in Ontario, cottage country. Next, coming in from Airdrie, Alberta, is Jay Raimondo. He is the owner and operator of Energy Fitness, Inc. He is a CanFit Pro trainer as well, and a franchise owner of F45. Jay was quoted in our 2022 Trends Report, and we're grateful to have you here, Jay, who will be speaking on a very important subject for the fitness industry. Alyssa Harriman, welcome along. Alyssa has been researching and teaching nutrition for more than 15 years, specializing in nutrition for cancer recovery and prevention. She's been awarded Best Nutritionist more than 6 times, including Best Nutritionist in Canada by National Nutrition. Alyssa is a member of the CanFit Pro Advisory for this year as well, and resides in Orillia, Ontario. And last but not least, coming in from Toronto, Ontario, is a certified personal trainer and much more, Simone Samuels. Simone is passionate about equity, diversity, and inclusion, and anti-racism. She's been featured in the New York Times, Shape Magazine, Bustle, The Real Daytime Talk Show, and The Today Show. Simone is also a member of the CanFit Pro Advisory for 2022. Whew! So that is our lineup. Impressive. Let's give some praise, applause, virtual claps, and or clap, clap, clap in the chat box. Yes, a dynamic and talented group. Thank you, Beth. So let us know if you've been in any of these presenters' sessions before. And also, while you're doing that, maybe a little bit of quiz. What do you know about these presenters? So let's do that as we get underway. We're going to dive into our first question. Oh, look at that. Lots of applause. Thanks so much, everyone. And we are right now sitting at 227 of you here this afternoon. So thank you so much for dedicating your time. All right, Fiona, the first question goes to you, Miss Mighty One. Based on the recent ChemFit Pro industry survey, there is a shared belief that there are several new opportunities on the horizon for fitness professionals, including family fitness training and a demand for mind-body offerings. How is the Hive offering accessible fitness?
Well, accessible fitness and the Hive kind of go hand in hand. I had mentioned to the panel just before we started that I was able to purchase a wheelchair treadmill today, and I'm glowing, absolutely glowing. So many people are going to benefit. I love it. So accessible facility is Hive indeed. From our one floor layout to doorless rooms and doors that can be opened this way as opposed to this, to open and shut. We also, in terms of being accessible and inclusive, do simple things like we have our vertical plates, vertical weights, or horizontal things that stack, so people don't have to reach up, they can reach everything at sitting height. Our entire facility was built initially, to start, for people who are in a wheelchair. So before we even did our blueprint, it was made for people who are sitting down, not standing up. And that's made a tremendous difference. People feel welcomed as soon as they come in. They don't look up, they don't look down, they look right at your eyes and say, hello, how are you? In terms of mind and body, all of our classes are adaptable from a seating or standing position, including one of my favorites, Zumba. We also offer I don't want to say regular yoga, but we offer Hatha Vinyasa Flow Yoga, as well as Hive Hot Yoga. And again, everything is adaptable and inclusive. We're also gender-free at our facility. We don't have gender on our forms. And we have a non-binary bathroom, as well as 2 washrooms that we identify as places to change and shower. I like to think that this is possible for everybody. I'd love to see in 5 years, when we do our next fantastic future in fitness, that this is the norm. As somebody who does accessible in my body, it's so important to think about digging the well before you're thirsty. And that's been the approach that we've taken with our programming, and meeting people very much at being you being you. If we couldn't find the space, we make the space, and we make our programs available. And the best thing we do to all our peeps coming in at Hive Muskoka and Hive Hot Yoga is simply ask, how can we do this better for you?
Wow.
How's it working?
And that very much opens the conversation versus just a yes or no. That is so practical, and so many things that you're doing. And I love your vision for the future. Jay, I'd love to call you in here and invite you to elaborate on what you heard from Fiona and maybe add your own thoughts.
Yeah, Fiona, definitely you are a role model. The Hive is setting the standard for the future for upcoming fitness facilities. So I love what you're doing, and just, inclusivity, diversity, accessibility, that's huge. And then the one thing that we talked about also was family engagement. And so coming from the F45 franchise, we have we're trying to get more kids involved in fitness. So we have this Prodigy program where we actually take kids into the F45 studio and get them to do our F45 workout. We've got 2 trainers on site. And when I talk about youth, it's anywhere from ages 12 to 17. And I find that this is very valuable and important, just because with the way COVID and the pandemic has hit everybody differently, I think the kids have been hit especially harder than most, with schools being shut down, activities, sports being shut down. And fitness is a huge part in family mental health, kids' mental health, fitness, and just the ability to socialize. So, I just wanted to give a shout out to anyone out there that is offering a kids program, because that's going to be valuable going forward, because it helps again with the mental health and just that sense of community for your business.
Very good. And there's some conversation happening here that I will refer to a little bit later. So Jay, if you mentioned it, forgive me, but your F45 Prodigy program, what is the age range?
Yeah, so anywhere between 12 to 17 years old. So trying to get them at that young age. And of course, we're open to even 11 or younger. But for those that have more body awareness, that have played sports, since they were young. And so if you've got that body awareness, that muscle coordination, then we would take a look at allowing you into the program. But we always have at least 2 trainers to make sure that you are doing everything correctly, proper form, not lifting heavy, just focusing on body movements and body mechanics, and just to keep you healthy and active.
Very good. We had a question about regarding accessibility for all. We're going to, our moderators will capture that, and we will definitely address that in terms of just even making certification and courses more accessible for vision and other impairments, in terms of helping fitness professionals gain that accessibility. I'm going to move on to a business question, because the business is so important today that we help to rebuild and recover from. This question is going to go to you, Chris. The CanFit Pro Trends report indicates 78% of business owners say they've experienced higher than normal levels of stress as it relates to management of their business, retention of staff and members, and adoption of new tech. Wow, that's a lot to think about and worry about, for sure. As a business coach yourself, what advice do you have for business owners dealing with these stresses?
Well, when I first heard that stat of 78%, I think that it's 100%. And some people just aren't confident enough to admit it. I mean, everybody's dealing with more than they've ever dealt in a big world full of unknowns. So understanding that this is just a part of what's happening right now. And I think back in my executive wellness days, I worked with a guy named Dr. Robert Maurer, and he wrote a book called Mastering Fear. And it was all about understanding fear and stress and anxiety. By the way, great, fantastic book. But why do we get so stressed, and why do we have anxiety? And it kind of boils down to 3 different factors. And one is the unknown, which obviously the pandemic provided. One is things are out of our control, and the pandemic caused that as well. And third is we don't feel like we're capable or good enough. And a lot of us felt that way too with everything that's going on. So when you actually look at any aspects of your life where you have anxiety or stress, it generally boils down to one of those 3 or a combination of those 3 things. So the reason I say that is because it's important to understand that, because once you understand that, it gives you a little bit of control, because you're like, okay, now I understand why I'm feeling so stressed and anxious about all of these different things, and that it's normal. But truth be told, in the business practices, we're wearing more hats. We've got leaner staffs. We've got more responsibility. We've got more things we have to deal with, from regulations and things that the government are placing on our facilities. So there really is a lot on our plates right now. So from a business standpoint, I think the first thing you need to do is you need to figure out what matters most, because you can't deal with everything. So look at the issues that you're really having. Is it generating new members? Is it retaining your members? It is engaging your staff more. Figure out what the things that matter most and put those at the top of your priority list. So the other stuff, while it may be important to some extent, those have to be put on the back burner temporarily, right? So the first thing to do is figure out what matters most and get those priorities in line. The Eisenhower urgency importancy matrix is a really good tool to use once you sort of narrow those things down to the most important. And for those of you that have seen that, it's the 2 charts where there's urgent and important, and then there's not urgent, not important. Then there's urgent, but I'm confusing the matrix in my head right now, but urgent, important, not urgent, not important, and they got those 4 quadrants. So then you take those main things that you've narrowed down and put them into those quadrants, and that will help you then prioritize what needs to happen first. Then once you get through that, is just a matter of project planning and figuring out what you need to tackle and in what order. And when it comes to that, there's a couple of great books. One is Eat the Frog by Brian Tracy. One is The One Thing by, is it Gary Keller? Yeah, Gary Keller. Those are great books that give you tools on how to approach these things so you feel successful. And I will tell you that one reason that type A people fail is they try to take on too much at once. So they take on too many things and they simply can't achieve it. So you become discouraged and you want to quit. So when you follow the things that you'll learn in those books and you go through the matrix, you prioritize what matters most, then you start to get more organized. You have more successes. Pick the 1 or 2 things every day that you know you can get through that will make a difference, and execute those, and just let those, build up, because all of those small steps lead to big change. So that's sort of the business tactical aspect. And I think the second thing that's important to mention really quickly is the self-care piece. And I know a lot of people hear self-care and they're like, is it really that important? It's kind of soft or fluffy, but that's not true at all. Think about it. We're in the health and fitness industry, and the first thing we stop doing is taking care of our health when we get stressed or we have to work more than we'd like to, right? So you have to prioritize, am I making time to exercise, to take care of my nutrition, to make sure I'm getting adequate sleep? Sleep is a funny one, because that's people wear lack of sleep as a badge of honor, right? They're like, oh, I can get by on 4 hours of sleep. Does anybody want to hire anybody that can get by? No, right? So I can get by on 4, but man, if I got 8, I could perform at the highest level possible. So, taking those self-care things, and I think part of that self-care, and this is in talking with a lot of clubs that we've worked with and other owners and managers, is getting out of your business to work a little bit. Because when you're in your business, you're always putting out fires and you're in that mix. And we've all heard the work on, not in. It's important, I think, part of self-care to physically distance yourself from your facility and your staff at times so that you can really focus on the bigger picture and those things that are important. So I think, considering the tactical part of attacking, where you're prioritizing what needs to happen and then putting into realistic goals to accomplish, and then making sure that you're taking care of yourself. If you do those 2 things, you're going to be the best leader that you can be, and you're going to help manage that stress. And I think, to bring it all full circle, mindset is truly important. And we can either see these things as problems or challenges. If people and it's amazing when you switch one word, how different your outlook becomes. But if this is a problem, that's going to stop us. It's going to hold us back. It's going to bring sadness. It's going to bring more anxiety and stress. But if it's a challenge, we love challenges, right? That's why everybody on this call is so successful, because we tackle challenges. So the last piece is just, when you come across something that's difficult, it's not a problem, it's just a challenge, because challenges have solutions.
Wicked. Great advice, both for self and for your business. Fiona, as a business owner yourself, do you want to weigh in on what you've heard and your thoughts around that?
Chris is absolutely speaking the truth. When I saw that in the report, I also thought, only 78%? What were these? I'm feeling like it's 120%. As an entrepreneur and business owner, I got to tell you, this was not in my business plan structure. This was not part of my 1, 3, and 5-year plan. I opened my facility in August of 2020. So I've actually only had just over 60 days where I was at 100% capacity, which was what I structured my business plan over. So I think it's important for self-care and to just be the best business owner that you can is networking. COVID has been the biggest boon to networking. When things first started happening 2 years ago, March, by April, I had been involved with a networking organization actually called Zoom at Noon with one of our CanFit Pro favorites, Lawrence Viscontini. And he hooked people up from around the world, and we could all see where things were happening, what was going on, what proactive things they were doing to deal with a reactive situation. So we had the time to connect and understand. It's great to be positive all the time, but I think we also have to weigh in that for mental health, being positive all the time isn't fair, because you get to have gross days. You get to have those days where it's enough that you put on your pants and got to the gym, if it's open. So definitely make sure that you're networking. Canford Pro did a wonderful job of this during COVID and continues to do so. WIFA is another great organization for networking. Women in Fitness is phenomenal. We also have MedFit Professionals Network, and to answer some of those questions that were in the comments. And by the way, the comments are amazing. Huge resources available to you. Networking is available, mentoring, strategies, tips from people less experienced than you and more experienced than you. One of the other things I also recommend for self-care is reducing triggers, and how I've done that, at least for Hive, because triggers do bring on mental health challenges. So reducing triggers by having body positive imagery throughout, or not having body images throughout your facility, removing as many mirrors as you can, having I've been blessed with being able to work with Muskoka Victim Services as a crisis responder for almost 8 years. So bringing in people, walking them through the facility and saying, what would trigger you if this, when we're open? And the answers I got back were not my experience, it was theirs. So it's so important to meet people where they are at, especially with all the triggers that are out there for everybody. One thing that I do see is with the yoga that we're teaching, you would think the most popular classes would be the power yoga, the going as hard as you can, and it's the yin, it's the restorative. It's going to a class where people remind you to breathe. So having those body language skills for when people come in and they're having a conversation with you and you notice that it's been 5 minutes since they've taken a breath. You're already meeting somebody with anxiety. So just watching that's a really neat tip as a fitness instructor and as a trainer, even with all our fitness practices as well, not only as a business owner, but as a coach. My sessions used to be kind of 5 minutes chatting at the beginning, 5 minutes chatting at the end. It's now 10 to 15 minutes to start, making sure everyone is feeling supported, making sure that we're doing what needs to be done. We're opening up our chest, we're opening up all of these muscles to make sure we're opening up our heart and we're being responsive and we're taking that time to connect. So again, networking, reducing as many triggers as you can, meeting the person where they're at that very day, and meeting yourself where you're at. As a business owner, this has been unprecedented, and this is definitely not what I signed up for, but I'll sign up for it anytime. And I did freeze there, but that was the computer.
That's what we call a virtual mic drop moment.
Yes.
Very, very good. And Fiona, so great. Thank you for sharing that. And I just feel that arming yourself with knowledge gives you more control of making the better decisions. So I hope everyone is taking notes, because this is powerful, what you're hearing here in this webinar. And even if it feeds your own head and heart, that is self-care. And we all need more of that. So thank you for sharing those wise words, both Chris and Fiona. We're going to shift gears here now and move into another area that has risen very high in our trends report, and for many reasons. For the fitness community, there's an unspoken expectation for trainers to also play a role as a healthy eating coach, since exercise and nutrition, of course, do work hand in hand. More and more clients are seeking support to develop a more positive relationship with food than trying the next restrictive diet plan to achieve their nutritional goals. True or true? True. We understand from our survey results that 60% of the fitness professionals plan to level up their skills in nutritional coaching. So this question, Alyssa, this is for you. How would you advise Fit Pros to help their clients create a more positive relationship with food?
So first off, and I know we had mentioned this is such a huge topic. Like I could honestly build like a 2-hour lecture on it. So what I wanted to do is kind of bring three main areas to help everybody kind of figure out how to dive into this topic, because one of the challenges with nutrition is it's a very large field. There's a lot of information and there's a lot of misinformation. So it can be a little bit more challenging to navigate. And I wanted to just give you guys three key areas to focus on. So the first one is to really start by building your own personal knowledge. When it comes to being able to be in a position to have an educated conversation, you have to have that knowledge yourself. And it's okay to say, like, I don't know, I'm not sure what we should do. Maybe we can look into that, or let's, dive into it. So it's really, really important to like build your personal knowledge. And in terms of offering some guidance around personal knowledge, always look for evidence-based information. So you're looking for information that's not, a next fad or a quick fix. You're looking for something where there's good science. And what's really great about the nutritional industry is there's a lot of really, really good science. And something I teach at the nutrition college that I teach at is I always tell the students to look for both sides, right? That's when sometimes we'll get an idea and we'll grasp it and we'll hang on to it and we're like, this is the only way. And the reality is there's quite a bit of evidence over here that might, offer some insight or a broader perspective. So try not to get too locked into just one idea, especially because the nutrition field is so big, but really look where the evidence is and do your research. Look at both sides of any story, because there is good nutritional philosophy out there and there's good programs that are very effective, but it's going to probably take a little bit of research to find that. The second area is I really want to encourage you to look for lifestyle-based over fad-based. And there's a reason for this, because when we focus on, and I shouldn't say fad-based, let's get rid of that. Let's say lifestyle-based over result-based. All right, because sometimes we can look, people a lot of times will come to us looking for specific results, but we are really, we should be looking at how do we help them live in a healthier body. So results-based often kind of falls into that fad-based category. We can get into restrictive programs. We can get into where results are very hard to maintain. We're getting into rebounds. And the biggest challenge I have for those types of programs is oftentimes it creates a lot of opportunity for being really critical about our choices, right? I didn't stay right within these parameters. I didn't do well. And that critical self-talk piece really can show up in nutrition, and it's not good. Like, it's not healthy for anyone. It's a big problem when really we should be celebrating our wins. We should be celebrating the good things we do. And one of the things I do with my clients around dietary journals is I don't get them to track what they ate throughout the day. What I do is I get them to track the good things that they did. And I know we try not to label our habits and behaviors, but I just want them to celebrate that, like, they put nutritious food into their body versus focusing on the things that maybe they like, they could have a really good eating day, but they had a cookie and they're so focused on that cookie. It's like, but you had a really good day, right? So lifestyle-based focuses on nourishing a healthy body. And the really good news is the side effect of good nutrition is usually you get really great results, and those results are very sustainable, and our clients are living in a healthier body as a result of that. So really focusing, again, good evidence, good lifestyle, good healthy habits. And something I always tell my clients is, and I think this is so important and a good, really great conversation for you guys to have as well, is if I ate the exact same calories as you, the exact same carbs, the exact same fats, if we did the exact same amount of exercise, we're still going to live in different bodies. And I think it's so important that we recognize that we're all biochemically unique and our nutrition is very individual. It's really just about focusing on things that are going to optimally nourish our body, which actually brings me into my third point here, which is nutrition is a massive field. So maybe in the chat, just go in here. What is it around nutrition that you want to learn? Let's just post in, just what's the topic? What do you want to learn? because, you know, I've been in this field for 17 years. I came from the healthcare industry. I've been teaching nutrition for 17 years. I'm a super geek. And I am still learning so much on a regular basis. So there's two things when it comes to learning about nutrition, I want you to kind of pinpoint where you want to land in. And number one is, are you looking for nutrition just for personal health and results and to have good conversation? That's a very different level of education. Or are you looking for nutrition so that you can help better support and create programming and help for clients? That's a completely different, you know, ball game. And it's really important as fitness professionals that you do stay within your scope of practice and you acquire the appropriate certifications to give the right advice. So, you know, it's really, nutrition is great in terms of like fitness trends. I think adding to your knowledge, getting your certifications, finding out what programs are available is valuable. I know the fitness industry has really struggled over the last couple years, but the nutrition industry is booming. My business has more than doubled because we can do this virtually and we can support people and add some knowledge. So it definitely is a smart area to get invested in, but you're going to want to find the programs that help support you in doing that.
Wow. Wow. And the chat box, when you asked the question, I'm trying to keep up. So you might want to check that out, Alyssa, and I'm certain that the moderators are. Leads us into a really good reminder that we have our Back by Popular Demand nutrition event coming up. I'll tell you about it at the end of this webinar, but it's early in March for Nutrition Month. There's been a lot of different comments here about how do I help clients sort of renovate their approach to, you know, lifestyle nutrition, as you mentioned, about intuitive eating, more on lifestyle, more information on lifestyle-based nutrition. There was a comment around age and hormones, boy, and best nutritional practices. The one question I will bring up, and this is always important, and we will certainly continue to bring you information on this, is what within the scope of our profession as certified fitness professionals, what within our scope around nutritional coaching are we allowed to do? So that's a big question. And if we have time at the end, maybe we can come back to that. But I happen to know that, Simone, you're pretty passionate in the subject area as well. And before I ask you something else, I'd love to know if you want to jump in on this conversation and share your thoughts and insights.
Sure. Honestly, I defer to Alyssa. Like I echo everything she said, and I'm assuming your pronouns are she, her. Please correct me if I'm wrong. And I do that precisely because of this issue of scope of practice. I'm an FIS, I'm a PTS. So whether you're a PTS, FIS, so personal training specialist, fitness instructor specialist, HWL, healthy eating and well-being and healthy eating and weight loss specialist, to a certain extent, especially with that last certification, you do have to mind your scope of practice. And so it makes sense as a personal trainer or a fitness instructor, especially, to create those networks. I know that I've been seeing in the chat, and a lot of the panelists today have also mentioned, it's really important to have those networks and have those referral networks so that you can refer out to the appropriate nutritionist or registered dietitian, the important nutrition professional. But not only do I echo everything that Alyssa said, I'll just add that diets are not helpful. And I know a lot of times, and historically in this industry, we have had a lot of diet culture. You hear, going back to the 80s and 90s, and everything was about low cal and low fat. And now the trend is low carb and keto and veganism. And I'm not here to bash any one diet. I actually used to be a vegan for almost 5 years. I was a vegan. So I don't bash any diet or alternative diets. But the thing is, no matter how you eat, to Alyssa's point, it has to be done in a sustainable way, and it has to be long-term for you to have those long-term benefits. So what we often see as personal trainers is folks want to go on a diet. They just want to lose 10 pounds for their wedding. Fine. There are many ways to lose weight, but will that be sustainable? One, and will that be good for you metabolically speaking? too. So certainly as an instructor, I do not, encourage any type of dieting whatsoever. In fact, according to my scope of practice, if you remember as PTS and FIS, we're really supposed to take clients back to the Canada Food Guide. That is our authority. So reminding them to have the greens on the plate and a lean protein, etc. Another thing that I'll add is a lot of times in the fitness industry, we hear a lot about good food versus bad food. And I eat clean versus eating dirty. And if you think about it, that actually doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. And certainly it's not really helpful for your client and the people with whom you work. There's no such thing as a good food, and there's no such thing as bad food. Food does not have morality. Food is not going to take you to heaven. Food is food, right? So we have fries. Fries are not necessarily bad food. If you are starving and you haven't had anything in 3 weeks and somebody gives you fries from McDonald's, you are not a bad person for eating fries. You're actually doing something very good for yourself by nourishing yourself, right? And so I want us as instructors and fitness professionals to get away from this idea of food morality and good food and bad food, and instead just teach people to eat a wide variety of foods, because in any healthy diet, truly all foods fit. And that also goes for the idea of clean and dirty foods. There's no such thing as a clean food and dirty food, or really saying clean eating is a little bit of a misnomer. Clean food is food that you have washed with soap under some running water. That is clean water. That's clean food. But to insinuate that having a little bit of oil or somehow, your pound cake is not eating clean, I don't think that's fair to folks. And that type of language can lead to disordered eating and eating disorders. And I think that's a really important point to make. I think we're in National Eating Disorder Week right now. So I think especially in light of that, that's a really important point to make. I try to espouse, even for myself personally, the sense of eating intuitively, responding to my hunger cues. Luckily, I have not, was not raised going on diets, etc. So I could trust my hunger cues. I haven't skewed them in any way. So when I'm hungry, I eat. And I encourage my clients to eat when you're hungry. Don't eat when you're not hungry. Your stomach is not a store. It does not close after a certain time in the evening. You can eat at 8 p.m. It won't affect you metabolically, as the myth has always gone. So I always try to encourage my clients, you deserve to eat, honor your hunger cues, don't work off food. I hate when I go to classes and I hear, let's work off that pumpkin pie from Thanksgiving. No, that starts to create this relationship between I need to earn food, and nobody earns food. You get to eat regardless of how much you ate yesterday, regardless of how much you ate today. You simply get to eat because you are a human being and you need food. So it's not helpful for us as instructors and fitness professionals to create a link between this earning food and burning off food, and we're here to burn calories. I don't use any language around calories, caloric eating, anything like that in any of my classes. So I tell people, eat the cookie and live a nice, balanced life, because truly all foods fit.
Wow. And the chat box is just going off with thank yous and gratitudes and excellent. I knew that you had this incredible perspective to share. So thank you. I'm going to stay right with you, Simone, and switch the subject matter. But thank you so much. That was incredible. And I can tell as many comments are coming into the chat box. So Simone, this question, and for everyone, it's around one of our most important and new topics within the Trends Report, although it's not new, it's just really relative. We all are aware that as the world collectively addresses the issues of inclusivity, equality, and diversity, so too is the world of fitness. How can we assure when designing spaces and programs that the experience doesn't exclude, but rather accommodates and embraces the uniquenesses of all people?
That's a great question, Mo. And honestly, I'm so inspired by all of my fellow panelists and really inspired by all the work that Fiona is doing over at Hive Fitness, because I think that's a perfect example of how you build with accessibility in mind. The first thing I want to talk about is the difference between equity and equality, because I find that oftentimes people use those words interchangeably and synonymously, but they're not the same thing. We have been taught that equality is a good thing. And I'm not saying that it's a bad thing, but we have been taught that equality is justice. We've been taught that if you treat everybody the same, then that's fair. But that is actually not always fair. Sometimes different people will need to be treated differently in order for there to be justice and fairness. So there's many types of examples that people like to give. One of the easiest examples I like to talk about are shoes, right? If all of my panelists, my fellow panelists, I don't know their shoe size, but let's say I gave them all a pair of shoes. I have treated all my panelists equally. But as you will soon find out, when they put their feet in these shoes, some of them will be too big, some of them will be too small, some of them will squeeze their pinky. So it's actually not fair. It actually doesn't meet their needs. So what equity rather does is give people the things that they need, particular to them, so that they have equal access. And that's a fundamental difference, because oftentimes we hear in these discourses, oh, how can they get that? That's not fair. It is fair because it allows them to have the same access that you do. And that's what equity is. And that's what you're wanting to bring into your fitness spaces. You may have to treat different people differently in order for them to have equal access. So again, with Fiona, she got a wheelchair treadmill. One could argue, well, how come they get a wheelchair treadmill? Well, in order for everybody at her facility to be able to run, some people might need a wheelchair treadmill, and the other ones can use the regular Life Fitness treadmill. But not everybody's going to be able to have the same thing if we're going to try to ensure equitable access. So that's a really key point for folks to consider. Another thing I'll say, and then I'll actually answer the question, is that when it comes to inclusion, I think a lot of times people think that this whole EDI, this whole push to inclusion since George Floyd was killed is all about, Black people or Indigenous people or racialized and people of color. And then people who don't fall into those categories kind of maybe feel like they're not part of this conversation. But really and truly, if you look at the word inclusion, it means include, which means everyone. Inclusion truly is for everyone. Not only does everybody have a part to play, not only does everybody have a responsibility, but even if you're not racialized, don't think that you don't have diversity. We all have layers of diversity, right? Some of us have visible disabilities, some of us have invisible disabilities like diabetes, schizophrenia, depression, etc. So I don't want people to think of themselves as non-diverse just because maybe you wouldn't be picked to, be put on a magazine as like your diversity hire is not to say that you don't have diversity. So you too are affected by this discussion that we talk about in inclusion. And so when we talk about how do we better accommodate people in terms of equity, diversity, and inclusion, I like to tell folks at work, you want to, one, solve for the margins, right? When you solve for those who are the furthest away from privilege, you end up solving really for everybody. So here's a perfect example. I'm going to use the wheelchair again. When I am carrying lots of stuff in my hands, like boxes or something really heavy, I am so thankful when I see that, wheelchair accessible button on the wall. So I don't have to go get the door, right? But that wasn't made for me, right? That was made for people who use wheelchairs. But in that example, you already see that when you solve for people who are the furthest away from ability, you also solve for people like me who do not use wheelchairs. Another thing is to do, again, I'm using Fiona a lot because she gives really good examples, like with bringing other folks in who would probably use the facilities or who have knowledge of people who use the facility. So in her example, she brought folks in who are trauma informed to look at her facility and see, is this going to be triggering? What could I change? All of us have, and this is a really ableist word that I have not found another word for yet, but all of us have blind spots. And we're not always going to be able to see all the things that may cause a problem for somebody else, right? So that's why we need to bring other folks into the conversation, networking again, so that they could show us, okay, here are the things that we could do differently and fix. And I know that we hear representation matters, but representation truly does matter. And I mean, I gave a speech one time about anti-racism in fitness spaces, so that's a whole other topic. But one of the things is when you brought in your network, try to also follow other people who are not like you on social media, so that you don't have the excuse, I didn't know anybody Black, so I couldn't have anybody Black on the panel. Well, why don't you know anybody Black? Why don't you know anybody who is two-spirited or who is trans? Like, you need to fix that. If you're invited to a panel and you see the spread, the panoply of people on the panel, and it's not really diverse, why don't you cede your position? And because of networking, invite somebody else to take your position on the panel. There's so many ways that we can ensure representation. And the last thing I'll say is that a lot of times I think folks get really discouraged with EDI work, equity, diversity, and inclusion work, because they think we have to be perfect. If we're not doing everything right, then what's the use doing it? But the journey itself is the goal. So just the fact that you're asking these questions, you're already doing the work of equity, diversity, and inclusion.
Would you like to take, I think you need to stand up and take a bow for that, or we'll give you the bow. That was profound examples. I'm sure we'll all walk away understanding equality versus equity just from the shoe example. I know many of us have used that in our work since hearing it for the first time with you. But profound advice, solving for the margins will solve for everyone. Thank you. And we have a lot of questions actually coming in through the chat. So thank you to the 250 of you that are just listening with open ears and really involved in the conversation. So we will get to those. Fiona, I'd love you just to share. I want to keep this on track because we're going to go to technology next with Jay. So in 2 minutes or less, any thoughts on what you just heard?
All right, time and me. Well, first of all, what a great panel. I'm like been writing notes the whole time and just, I'm going to follow up with her. Where I'm seeing this fitness trend report, I don't know if anyone else has noticed this, but I'm hearing empathy for everybody. Everyone has spoken about having empathy and having care, wanting to contribute and wanting to do the right thing. And to be in an industry that over the past couple of years has really had some challenges, up to 46% of facilities have closed. But to hear that we're here to help, we're here to meet you where you are right now, not where I think I could be based on all my certifications. We're here to say, what can we do? Where do we start? In terms of fumbling and making mistakes as I've gone on this journey, please. I have made so many mistakes, and it's so great because I've learned from every single one of them. What I've learned is if I'm not sure, I got very confused by pronouns, and I was trying to do the right thing, and then I realized, I could just ask somebody what their name is, and I'll use their name, and then there's the problem solved right there. So I think we overthink things sometimes because we're trying to do the right thing, but no one's perfect. So one of the things I do with my family every day is we say, what are we grateful for every day at dinner? And then where did we really make a mistake today? Where did we screw up? What was the epic failure that we got to experience? And that means I'm raising my children, and I'm in a way that they're thinking it's okay to just do your best and know it's not perfect. Some people had also mentioned for inclusion as well in the comments, the whole social economic impact. I mean, where we're learning in fitness trends report, it's been 2 years of up and downs for almost every single industry. So people are struggling financially. And when you struggle financially, it's great to have gratitude for what you have. But when you're really struggling, you're thinking about the things you don't have. So as a trainer and as somebody in the fitness industry, what are you doing to meet those peeps? Because there's lots of them. At Hive, we have an energy ambassador program. So you get an all access pass for everything that we offer here in exchange for 2 to 3 hours of work a week. And it's great. It helps me immensely. People get to see it. They get to talk about the classes. People feel engaged. And that idea of inclusion and equity, instead of looking at somebody for what they represent either visually, what do we do to start working with them? What can you do? You know, my work that I've done over the years with people that have had disabilities, for example, amputations, things like that, go and ask that difficult question and say, how many times a day are you asked why you don't have a leg? And I don't think anyone in this panel today has asked Mo why she's wearing glasses.
Mm-hmm. Great.
Right?
Yeah.
So
that's really
anyway,
great.
Powerful. Yeah.
Very helpful when you think of it that way. Thank you. And always a wealth of knowledge. I know I challenged you there with 2 minutes. My apologies. I want to jump right into this one. So I'm going to, of course, we have Jay here today to speak specifically around adopting smart tech. So the stats we did gather said that 71% of fitness professionals agree adopting smart tech into programming will be a necessity, not a nicety, but a necessity. The pressure's on for gyms, studios, and boutiques to update equipment, everything from the playlists and sound systems, and ways to provide an overall better experience that is technology enabled. I love that terminology. I'd love you to touch on that and what smart tech you believe will have the most impact and should be considered first when renovating and adopting new tech. Big question. Awesome. There you go.
Yeah, so coming from the F45 franchise, we're huge on technology, especially with our heart rate monitors. And I'm sure if you've gone to a lot of the boutique studios and many other gyms have that heart rate monitor. This is a game changer. And I say game changer because there's a lot of gamification that you can add to it. And that gamification side, where you're just challenging members, whether it's, and the good thing about it is it's just customized because it's based on the individual's resting heart rate, their age, their physical ability. So it's customized. So when you do have these games or these challenges, it's not the athlete versus the stay-at-home mom. Everyone's kind of playing at the same level here. And it's just whether it's calories burnt, average heart rate, it builds that sense of community. And with that sense of community, it increases and improves your customer retention, their experience, and you can have so much fun with it. And then when you have that, like I said, there's that retention, and then the community, the strength of the community, where a lot of us are lacking right now with COVID and the pandemic, is that social aspect of social belonging. So by doing this is great. Now, for those fitness boutiques and gyms that, are like, well, it's a tough year, it's struggling, I don't know if I can afford this. I run an online fitness platform as well. And I basically just use their step tracker, whether it's on their smartphone, watch, phone, whatever. And we kept track of our steps. And I challenged them. I didn't do it this year, I did it last year, where from January to March, I believe. So it was kind of like targeting spring break. We challenged our community to walk to Hawaii from Alberta. So I just Googled how many kilometers it would be from Alberta to Hawaii, converted it into steps, and then divided it amongst the group in my community. And so every day, everyone would just email me, yeah, I walked 10,000 steps. Oh, I did 15,000. And you'll see the engagement just skyrocket. People will start walking on their lunch breaks. They'll get up a little bit extra earlier in the morning, and it just keeps people moving. So that sense of accountability, that sense of teamwork, camaraderie, community, and we ended up making it to Hawaii. And then so we celebrated with like an accountability wine and chat call. We dressed up in our Hawaiian clothes and had little, margaritas and fun drinks, and we enjoyed it. So we made a game out of it, but we built that community and we created that experience. And these guys have been with me for, even ever since the pandemic started, and will continue to stay with me, even though gyms will stay open. It's that ability to connect with members, and technology is going to be a huge part of that.
Chris, I thought you might just jump in on that one because I can just tell you want to add something to this conversation.
Yeah, no, I think there were three things that came out of the pandemic that I would say were positive. One is the industry came together, and to some of our other panelists' points, how important it is networking and reaching out to others for support is huge. And it's the first time we've ever seen vicious competitors sitting at the same table trying to answer the same problems and work together. So I think the unification of the industry. The second thing is health and wellness is at the forefront of everybody's minds. I know here in the US, there's very polarizing when it came to masks or vaccine mandates and every other crazy thing. But the one thing that everybody agreed on was if you exercise and you eat right, you're way better if you get COVID. So I think more of the world is now aware it goes beyond just getting really lean or looking good in a bathing suit, but your overall health, wellness, and longevity depends on physical activity and making great, good choices when it comes to what you to your food. But the third piece is innovation. And I think everything that Jay said, our industry had been notorious for not innovating. We kind of did things the way they were, and we didn't really innovate very much at all. All of a sudden, pandemic hits, and we literally can't operate the way we did historically. So we had to innovate. You saw such a great shift to online programming and virtual programming and training. And prior to the pandemic, if I said, Mo, hey, can I teach you a yoga class via Zoom? You would have said, no, that's strange. Now it's super common, right, to do exercise via Zoom. Or how about happy hour? If I asked you, hey, you want to join me for happy hour via Zoom? You would have said no, and I think you should go seek help for the drinking issues that you have. But now it's perfectly common to meet and have a couple drinks and visit with people via Zoom. So technology's really been normalized and people are used to it. They appreciate it, they enjoy it. And it offers another level, to Jay's point, of engagement and interaction and connectivity to your client base. So whether it's a pandemic that keeps people out of gyms, or they're simply traveling, or they can't make it to the gym because work is too busy, or for whatever reasons, you as a facility and a provider can stay connected through the use of technology. So I think it's important that you figure out what technology solutions, again, what matters most, what will impact your business the most based on what you're looking to accomplish, and implement those type of things. The other thing I think we need to realize is our businesses aren't just compared fitness to fitness. I mean, they are from a standpoint of maybe somebody goes to an F45 and has a very cool experience with the tracking and the heart rate monitoring and the way they book and buy their classes. Then they come to your facility and the expectation is to have the same ease of process of purchasing and joining and seeing the connectivity and the involvement. But it's not just fitness to business. You go to Starbucks in the morning, you've got it all loaded on your app. You buy whatever drink you want, you've paid for it, you get your reward, your perk, whatever, it's there waiting, and you get a consistent cup of coffee. People are going to expect that same sort of technological personalization, ease of doing business in fitness facilities. So you're going to be compared to other industries and what they're doing who are far more technologically advanced. So you have to stay on top of the technology. That's the way it's going. I saw an article actually today that Les Mills just entered the metaverse with virtual body combat. So you throw on your Oculus and now it's a virtual body combat. So every industry is shifting that way. Our industry is shifting. You have to embrace technology. And as somebody who historically, personally was tech averse, I mean, it took me forever before I would deposit a check with my app, which is stupid, by the way. Right? That was the type of technological loser I was. I've gotten by that, and I'm much better now. But if you don't embrace the technology and use it to create a better, more engaging experience, you're definitely going to be left behind.
Very good point. And we're getting lots of comments about how remote coaching and online and moving your business online has been the new innovation for many fitness professionals. Also a great way to educate clients. It could be in addition to what you do in person. There was a comment, I think it was a question, not sure, about live in person for conferences. Hang on, I'm going to talk about that. We did get a couple questions, and we're not going to be able to address all of them in detail because they're a big one. I do want people to think about this, and thank you, Tara Diner, for bringing it to our attention. I will share the question. I'm not going to be able to address it today, but I want you to think about this, everyone, and bring us your ideas because we're in it together. As an educator, which we all are, we're all looking for ways on how to make a difference in how we can bring more certification accessibility to people. So ways people can learn who have perhaps living with vision impairment or hearing, et cetera, et cetera. We're asking for thoughts on that. It's a big question. The thought is let's think about it, and not think about it, but let's talk about it, and let's find new ways to bring more accessibility to the way that we deliver information. And many of us have already started that. So I appreciate the question, Tara. I'm not going to answer that today because we're just at 3. I want to clarify one thing, please, if I could, with Alyssa. is what you're talking about, and you talked about a couple things, but intuitive eating. Are you working with this way with your clients?
Yeah, yes and no. So we're definitely teaching our clients how to trust their cues, like Simone shared, like to understand what their body is telling it, listen to it. A lot of us grew up in homes where it was like, finish what's on your plate. So you kind of have this habit and behavior to kind of eat through fullness. So those types of conversations come up. What I mostly do is focus on nutritional education. I'm a big believer that educated people can make educated decisions. And because there is a lot of information and a lot of misinformation, my goal is to give people really good information and then resources so that they can continue to do their own research, come to their own conclusion, and figure out what it looks like for them. So I don't have a specific label for what I do other than I'm helping position people to be able to make more educated decisions and decisions that match, you know, who they are, what their beliefs and the types of results that they're looking for.
Thank you. We're going to leave the questions at that because we respect your time. There is some other questions around what is the biggest impact you can make in group fitness as far as a trend in terms of a class design. We'll bring some of those answers to you in future webinars because this conversation will continue. But thank you so much for your interest. I have two important announcements to make. First of all, we do have our March nutrition event coming to you online, March 4th and 5th. So please join us. Hundreds of you have already signed up. It was hugely popular last year. So many great questions and new innovation in nutrition and everything we talked about today. So you can still sign up for that event and it is online. The next one, and this ties into what we're all eager, excited, optimistic, and so overjoyed about the opportunity to come back together or welcome back our friends to live in-person events. To answer the question, yes, CanFit Pro will be bringing you global in Toronto live at the MTCC, August the 10th through the 14th. There will be an online component to the curriculum for those who may not be able to join us in person. So something for everyone so we can meet you where you're at. But we're highly anticipating this to be the reunion of all fitness reunions in Toronto this summer. So we hope you join us. Please note as well, you are here today. We have a gift for you. The opportunity to receive 25% off package one of our PTS, FIS, and NWL certifications. Yes, 25% off package one. You'll, with a code, and Mary will put the code in. She already has FIT, all caps, 2022 in the member portal. When you shop, you can receive 25% off. The expiry on that is February 28th. So take action today because we can together move the world forward with us helping to lead the change that is not only needed, but anticipated for everyone. So thank you on behalf of CanFit Pro. Thank you, Alyssa, Fiona, Jay, Simone, and Chris. And on behalf myself, Mo, thank you all for investing time with us here at CanFit Pro today. Bye for now.